All right, guys, brand new Take Aim Outdoor podcast, and excited to give you an update of the spring turkey season here in Michigan. Michigan season just opened up on Monday. I'm going to try to give you guys updates throughout the week and next week until I kill a bird. So hope you guys enjoy the show. Make sure to check us out, Outdoor Podcast Channel, podbros.com, and please subscribe on iTunes. All right, boys and girls, we are back. The mic is live and new podcast. So it's April the 25th. Wanted to wait a few extra days to get this podcast out because Monday, the 23rd, started Michigan's turkey season. And Michigan, unlike a lot of states, kind of runs late. A lot of the Midwest has already been hunting probably for a few weeks. A lot of the South's already been hunting all the way back to March. But Michigan waits till almost May, which kind of blows my mind, but that's not the moral of the story anyways. But so just wanted to give you guys an update. Last week I had gone out, scouted this farm 3 days last week, saw birds in the field. I was actually hunting today, but saw birds every single day. Every day I actually saw times, so obviously that's a good sign. That's some good pre-scouting when you get to go out and see exactly what you hopefully get to go hunt. And so that was like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I left for the weekend, so I didn't bother that farm at all. There's no pressure really back there on this part of this farm. Anyways, luckily for me, this part of the farm is actually landlocked, and it's quite a ways back. I mean, by the time I take this cattle trail, in the way the access is set up, you head south and have to go east and then follow the cattle trail again to the south. It's literally a mile back. And like I said, it's landlocked from the south as well and property from the east and west. So unless somebody was back there trespassing or doing something, there shouldn't be any issues. So fast forward, I made it back to hunt back in town here for Monday morning, which was opening day. And it was a pretty nice day. Nothing great, not great, but nice. Like it was 47 degrees, partly cloudy, partly sunny, so a little mixture of everything, but a good possibility that birds would move. Luckily got in there, plenty of time before the daylight, got the blind up, got all set up. And one of the reasons I didn't get the blind up previously is just being gone. I knew I was going to be out of there for the weekend, and I just didn't want to mess with having a blind that was blown 5 acres down in field somewhere and can't find it in the dark, and then you end up just busting birds. And sometimes you can stake a blind down and it will stay for weeks or months, and then other times you can stake it down and it won't last 48 hours. So I just took the opportunity not to screw it up and popped the blind up in the morning. But got the blind up as soon as we got in there, had the decoys set out. My father-in-law was actually in town with me, turkey hunting. But so we're going to try to double up, obviously. And, like I said, we had, he was using a shotgun. I was using my bow. And, right off the bat, man, we had some really good gobbles off the roost. And it sounded like there was two distinct gobblers, two different birds, and maybe a third one that I'm assuming was a jake because he was off in a position a little bit farther from the rest of the birds. Not by much, but I mean maybe 50 yards. And just didn't have that strong vocal power like the toms do. And so long story short, time went by. Maybe now, I think we're there at 5:30 in the morning. It's now about 6:30. A hen walks by, right by the blind, right by my decoys. Literally, she gets within 30 yards of us, and she just keeps on moving, never stopped, never got any closer to the decoys, and really didn't pay them much mind at all. She didn't really focus on them too much. When she came from a different part of the farm, not where the gobblers and that other hen were roosted. She came from the south. Those guys were behind us in the woods in the north. And when she crested that hill, she kind of, like, whoa, there's some other birds already out here. But that was it. She did that for about 20 seconds, moved on, and took her time and kind of just pecked around in the field until she cleared. About 6:45 to 6:50, I believe those two toms popped out of the woods right in the field. From the time they popped out and I noticed them, which it looked like right away I noticed them because they were right on the edge of the field, I literally bent down, grabbed my binos, came back up, and they were gone off the field. So it's really kind of one of those things. I don't know if it was me. I don't think they caught me in the blind. I don't know if it was the decoys. You know, you see all the time birds walk right by these blinds and the decoys. So I really don't believe it was any of that stuff. So a little later in the day, another half an hour goes by. They come out in the same field but farther to the west, another 100 yards. And this field I'm on is it's like 11 acres, but it's big enough that, you know, every time they move 100 yards, I mean, they're out of range. And they stood down there. They were strutting, never gobbled. Matter of fact, didn't gobble again off the roost once, since they were on the roost, I should say. Didn't gobble at all. And they were real slow. I don't know from that point what they were doing. I couldn't see a hen, but they were strutting, so I'm assuming there was a hen around. But they just stood out there for 5-10 minutes, and the way that this back field, it's for Michigan, it's what you would call hilly, but you know, there's some bumps in it and kind of little hills, and they were just to the backside of this little part of the field that you could just literally see their heads and tail feathers. So like I said, they were fanned up at that point, so it made them look bigger, obviously. So like I said, maybe the way the hill crested, there was a hen there and I could not see her. But nonetheless weird. They just acted weird. Didn't want to come down any closer to us. Never did. So fast forward, we ended up leaving. I had to get to work here probably about 10 a.m. When we left the field, I had made a comment to my father-in-law earlier in the morning about smelling smoke, and I was like, hey, you know, obviously, do you smell that? It smells like smoke. And he said, nah, I don't smell nothing. So I don't know. I just thought I was kind of crazy. Or got a very distant whiff of, you know, a mile away of a burn pile or something. Well, when we left, we come out in the dark. I didn't notice this, but our farmers actually had a burn pile on the opposite side of the field to the southwest of us. And not very far. I mean, this is like literally 3 acres away, the way the hill is. And we're, you know, on the downside, sloping side of this hill. So again, I couldn't see it. The burn pile was basically on the neighbor's fence row, but on our side of the fence row. But they had a big tractor in there, which I saw the tracks of the tractor when we drove in. And, you know, I made comment to my father-in-law, like, hey, they've been back here. I wonder if they, you know, had plowed the field or did something like that. But the burn pile was smoldering, had smoke coming out of it, and smoke coming out of it at a pretty good pace. So I don't know if that was kind of one of the things that kept those birds a little bit uneasy and on edge and kind of away from us. But they didn't like it, so to speak. I noticed that hen, now that, you know, I'm thinking about it, like, you know, when she was standing on the hill, was she really checking out my decoys? Was she looking at the burn pile or what she was doing? So I don't know. But like I said, when I was there Friday doing the pre-scouting, there was no burn pile there. There was no tractor back there. There was none of that. So it was just one of those things like, you know, surprise to us. Didn't know it. So I really feel like it kind of made a difference in the hunt. And Tuesday and Wednesday, which I'll talk about right now, but it definitely seemed to change their habits just a little bit because I saw them right in the middle of those fields last week and strutting, took their time. I mean, I filmed them for an hour on Friday morning right in the middle of that field, which would be between the blind, the double, and the tractor and burn pile. So Tuesday, man, kind of similar day to Monday, maybe a touch colder. The wind had changed and the wind was kind of blowing colder air. And it was, again, kind of the same thing, maybe a little more on the gloomy side, not so sunny. And the birds went nuts on the roost yesterday morning. I mean, absolutely nuts. It was every 30-second double, triple gobbles, and just kind of got you really excited and inspired for them to get out of the tree. They gobbled so much. So roughly, I want to say 6:30 to between 6:30 and 6:45, the gobbles really seemed to kind of quiet down, so we figured they had got out of the roost. Again, same thing, I had heard a hen really close to them, knew that was going to be trouble for us. Anytime there's a hen, obviously real close to those gobblers and you're not in between them, they're going to fly down and pretty much spend their time with her right off the bat. Pretty much that's what happened. At about 7 o'clock, I told Rick, I said, hey, he could only hunt till Tuesday, so we were really hoping to get him a bird. And, it was Tuesday at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I said, hey, they're right behind us. And two big, giant toms, man. I mean, it was pretty awesome. They're older birds. I haven't been back to this part of the farm and turkey hunted there at all. I didn't do it at all last year, not even remotely once. So they're definitely older birds. Matter of fact, we haven't shot a bird back on this part of the farm in 4 or 5 years. We've been kind of just for whatever reason hunting 2 other farms. So, easily a 10-inch beard on the one and 11, 12-inch beard on the other. So I'm definitely thinking these are 4 and 5-year-old birds. And, man, they just didn't do anything. They didn't strut. They stood there really quiet, looked around, hardly moved, and ended up walking dead east, which is absolutely crazy, down the fence row behind us in the woods, and disappeared the rest of the morning. And I want to say we heard what I believe to be was a jake, roughly about 8:30 in the morning. He gobbled about 3 times back to back to back. And just again, one of those kind of faint, weaker gobbles, kind of like something in his throat, trying to gobble. And usually it's going to indication that's a jake. But this morning, or I should say that pretty much concluded Tuesday morning. This morning, a little bit colder, way windier, 100% gloomy. And I've always been one to kind of, and maybe I'm just making this up, but it seems to be, to me, on the days that it's gloomy, that it's not one of those big, bright bluebird days, that the birds are just a little less active from gobbling and visual-wise, seeing them out in the fields and doing turkey stuff. Just on cloudy days, I just don't see a lot of it. The activity just is decreased. But I didn't hear a gobble today. Can you believe that? I mean, not one gobble. It was extremely windy. The woods itself was extremely loud and noisy. Can't talk today apparently, but drink some water. Maybe that will help. But, like the trees, the limbs, everything's cracking, waving back and forth, and just making a ton of noise. And it just seems to me that, again, the birds just don't like it. And no gobbling, but about 8:30 in the morning on the west side of the field, I ended up seeing 2 hens and 3 jakes. At first, I thought it was 4 jakes, but it ended up being 2 hens, 3 jakes, and they didn't do much of anything. The jakes were, they were strutting, and I could just, again, they were puffed up and on that sloping side of the hill, so I could really just see the tops of their tail feathers. So I knew right away they were jakes. And if you're listening, don't turkey hunt. You can always tell a tom because a tom has a full even fan, meaning all the feathers are the same height all the way across. Where a jake will have 4 or 5 feathers in the middle, very middle top of his fan, tail fan, that are longer than the rest of the feathers. So all those guys are strutting together. And like I said, you can look right at the tail feathers. I knew they were jakes. And they walked off, and that was like about it. So seen lots of deer today, saw 9 deer, but that was it for the turkeys. It had to come to work. But it's bright and sunny now, and the temperature's increasing, and it's going to be like this to tomorrow. So I really feel like, hopefully I have some success tomorrow, trying to self-film And like I said, I really was hoping to do a couple of these semi-live podcasts, just covering turkey season. And hopefully tomorrow's the day. If it stays like today, the wind, I can tell the wind's already calmed down. And like I said, it is awesome out right now, and it's on its way up to 60 degrees. But which is a big change because, like I said, this morning was 42 degrees and windy, and it was kind of brutal. So I really think tomorrow's going to be a great time. Unfortunately, due to my work schedule, somebody's got to pay the bills, so I got to be here, right in the middle of the day. I'm here all day, really, 10 to 7, 10 to 6:30. But that limits me from getting out there in that mid-range part of the day where a lot of those birds like to break away from those hens, which is a bummer for me because that's such a great time to hunt, So I'm on the AM schedule only, and pretty much that means if I don't catch them out of the roost and get real close to them in the morning, I really lots of times don't have a chance. But I think tomorrow I'll be in really good shape. I know those birds aren't leaving. Like I said, it's the middle of nowhere, this little nice field of 11 acres surrounded by timber, and the birds don't have any reason to leave. They don't see me coming in or out. They're not pressured. Luckily for me, the neighbors aren't turkey hunting on the, borderline fence row properties. They're not turkey hunting at all. So like I said, I think it's one of those things. I'm committed to, shooting one with the bow out of the blind and trying to film it. So I just got to grind it out. I know the birds are there. There's no reason to second guess going somewhere else or doing something else. It's just going to the same blind every day, will make anybody kind of go crazy, especially during turkey season, because I'm one of those guys. I love to run and gun, and that's a fun thing to me about turkey season. I'm not one of those guys I don't like to really deer hunt my turkeys at all. So like last year and this year, I'm going to just grind out the double bowl, set it in it every day, and we're going to try to pull one of these birds down with the bow. I want it to be up close and personal, and we'll get it on film. I think it'll be real exciting. So I'll give you guys an update in a day or two once I get enough input from the hunt, see what the turkeys are doing, and good luck if you guys are out, and we will see you guys next week.